Hey, do you need help? You're looking kind of lost.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, yes.
What's everyone doing?
What's everyone doing?
Oh, we're all celebrating. We just watched Lyndon Johnson's Voting Rights Act speech.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm confused. Could you explain?
Yeah, sure. Where do I begin? So, if you really want to know about racism and the civil rights movement in the 1960s, you need to know about the Jim Crow laws, which were passed in the 1950s. These laws denied African Americans equal rights and allowed white people and black people to be segregated in public facilities. For example, if you were to go to a public bathroom in the 1960s, you would see an area that said whites only and you would see an area that said blacks only. Or even if you were to go to a school, if you were to walk inside a classroom, you would see that black kids would be segregated from the white kids, or even just a white school or just a black school. And even on buses, in the buses, they were separated by white people being allowed in the front because they were superior and black people being put in the back. And so now in the 1960s, people are fighting for their rights, and this is called the Civil Rights Movement. It is a struggle for social justice of black Americans in America. And the way that this is done is peaceful protests, hunger strikes, bus boycotts, like the bus boycott in honor of Rosa Parks. However, if you really want to know about the civil rights movement, you really need to know about some of the landmark dates that were big breakthroughs for black Americans and their equality in America. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act passed, which outlawed segregation of black Americans and white Americans in public facilities, jobs, and schools.
The president seems to have mastered the art of just touching each pen to the paper.
In 1965, the Voting Rights Act passed, which allowed black Americans to vote.
There is no issue of states' rights or national rights. There is only the struggle for human rights.
And in 1968, we don't actually know this yet because we're only in 1965, but the Fair Housing Act will ban discrimination and racism within a household.
Recognizing that property rights should not be abridged because of discrimination based on race, color, national origin, or religion.
Well, that was only a brief summary of the civil rights movement, but I hope it helped.
I see. Well, I'll get going now.
See you.
Goodbye.
Soldier, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah, yes. What's everyone doing?
You mean where am I? We're so close to free Vietnam from communism, and you here have the audacity to ask me where am I? Soldier, we are on the brink on achieving victory. Captain Franklin Ellis has ordered our troops to combat the Viet Cong Tet attacks. Oh, and after taking Saigon, I can say that they are very much cornered. And communism around the world. Victory for the ones who seek freedom and justice. This is the decade of freedom. This is the decade of change, soldier. Why am I not home? Well, I mean, I wanted to, but, you know, there's this war I have to fight, But back home is pretty interesting too. Back home, we'll have the presidential election later in the year, and I'm really proud to say that the young people finally have an interest in political issues. Finally, they have a voice. Personally, I hope Richard Nixon would be in the White House. I mean, the commies, he could make those communists shut up. With him, I could see a world with freedom, soldier. Speaking about justice, Martin Luther King is making great strides for the black community. Really? This decade is the decade of change, soldier.
Of a determined, organized, mobilized campaign.
I see. Well, I'll get going now. Have a nice day. Oh.
Hey, what are you doing here? I thought you were dead.
Oh, yeah, I just don't exactly understand what the crowd here is exactly doing.
They're campaigning against Miss Americas. You know, the protests where feminists like us object to the racism of the pageant. The Miss America judges base the winners on the vague standards of beauty, but doesn't everyone have their own standards of beauty? In the decades of its existence, there had never been a black Miss America. You see, women before this decade are assigned to do housework. Well, it must have been very boring for them, but no one would speak up. Well, that is until Betty Friedan. With a revolutionary book, The Feminine Mystique, woman empowerment is now greater than ever. When with her organization, called Now, women will finally have a platform to speak about sexist rights. That's why we're campaigning against Miss America. We're campaigning against it because it represents everything wrong about society. Fighting against the Equal Rights Amendment, we're fighting for it because it hasn't been approved for years. Imagine living in a society where rights about equality hasn't been approved for years. Anything that happens 10 years, 20 years from now will be a result from this decade.
And those boys who are wearing their hair long are saying,
Well, I'll get going now that I understand what's going on. Goodbye. Have a nice day.